It was just past midnight when James Turner, a long-haul trucker from Ohio, found himself cruising down Interstate 80. The road stretched endlessly ahead, illuminated only by his truck's headlights and the faint glow of the moon. The highway was eerily quiet, with not another vehicle in sight. James loved the solitude of night driving, but this particular night felt different. The air was heavy, and a strange unease began to creep up his spine. Then, out of the darkness, he spotted a figure standing by the side of the road. It was a young woman, her hair disheveled and her clothes tattered. She held her thumb out, signaling for a ride. James slowed his truck, thinking she might be in trouble, but something about her made him hesitate. Her eyes glinted unnaturally in the dim light, and her expression was blank, almost lifeless. Still, his conscience got the better of him, and he stopped the truck a few feet ahead of her. Before he could even unlock the door, the woman was suddenly at his window, staring in. Her movements were too quick, almost inhuman, and James felt a chill run through him. "Where are you headed?" he asked cautiously, his voice trembling. The woman didn't answer, she simply climbed into the passenger seat without permission. As they drove, James tried to make conversation, but her silence was unnerving. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper, "This road isn't safe. Not for you. Not tonight." James glanced at her, but her expression was unreadable. Then, without warning, she turned to him and said, "You should stop now. Or you'll never make it." James was about to question her when he noticed something strange in the mirror. There was no reflection of the woman in the passenger seat. His blood ran cold as he turned to look at her directly, but she was gone. The seat was empty, as if she had never been there. Shaken, James pulled over to gather his thoughts. As he stepped out of the truck, he noticed something even more chilling. The ground where he had picked her up was marked with old, faded flowers and a cross, a memorial for an accident victim. The realization hit him like a punch: the woman was not of this world. From that night on, James never stopped for hitchhikers on dark highways again. Emily and her boyfriend, Ryan, were driving back from a late-night road trip in their old pickup truck. They were somewhere along Highway 101, surrounded by dense forests that seemed to press in on the road. The radio was playing soft country tunes, and the occasional chirp of crickets broke the stillness. Out of nowhere, headlights appeared in their rearview mirror. A convoy of 3 black SUVs was following closely, their high beams glaring into Emily's eyes. She squinted, annoyed by their aggressiveness. "Why are they tailing us like that?" Ryan muttered, his knuckles tightening on the steering wheel. Emily shrugged, but her unease grew as the SUVs began to close the distance. Suddenly, the SUVs sped up and overtook their truck, one by one. As the last vehicle passed, Emily caught a glimpse of the driver's face, or rather, the lack of it. The driver's features were blurred, as if shrouded in smoke, and his hollow eyes seemed to burn into her soul. Ryan didn't see what Emily saw, but he felt the temperature drop inside the cab. Moments later, the SUVs disappeared ahead, as if swallowed by the darkness. Relieved, they thought the ordeal was over, until they saw the SUVs again. This time, the convoy was parked by the side of the road, their engines off and their lights dimmed. As they drove past, Emily could feel eyes following them, even though the vehicles appeared empty. Ryan pressed harder on the gas, desperate to leave the scene behind. But no matter how far they drove, the convoy always seemed to reappear, either behind them or in the distance ahead. It was as if the SUVs were toying with them, leading them into a trap. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached a gas station and pulled in. The bright lights of the station were a welcome relief, and they decided to wait until dawn before continuing. As they sat in the truck, Emily checked her phone for any news about the highway. To her horror, She found an article about a convoy of black SUVs that had crashed on that very road 5 years ago. The occupants had all died, and the vehicles had been abandoned ever since. The gas station attendant later told them that the convoy was a local legend. "Those who see it," he said, "are never the same again." Mark was a seasoned road tripper who loved exploring uncharted routes and forgotten highways. On a chilly November night, he decided to take a shortcut through a back road he had never used before. The GPS warned him that the road didn't exist, but Mark brushed it off as a glitch. The narrow road was lined with tall, skeletal trees, their bare branches clawing at the sky. Fog rolled in thick waves, and the truck's headlights barely penetrated the darkness. After an hour of driving, Mark realized he hadn't seen a single sign of civilization. No gas stations, no houses, just the endless, eerie road ahead. Then he noticed something strange: his gas gauge wasn't depleting. Mark knew he should have been running low by now, but the needle hadn't moved. He decided to pull over and check his surroundings. As he stepped out, he noticed a peculiar silence. There were no insects, no wind, nothing but an oppressive stillness. Suddenly, Mark heard footsteps crunching on the gravel behind him. He spun around, but there was no one there. The footsteps grew louder, circling him, though he could see no source. Panicking, Mark jumped back into his truck and locked the doors. As he tried to start the engine, the radio crackled to life with static. Through the static, a voice whispered, "You shouldn't be here." Mark slammed his foot on the gas, speeding down the road in a blind panic. But no matter how far he drove, the road stretched on endlessly, as if he were trapped in a loop. Hours later, he suddenly found himself back on the main highway, with no memory of how he got there. His truck was almost out of gas, and the clock showed that an entire day had passed. When he recounted his experience to other drivers, many shared similar tales of a cursed road that appeared only to those who dared to stray too far from the beaten path. Mark never went looking for shortcuts again. Each story serves as a chilling reminder of the unknown dangers that lurk on lonely highways. Whether it's restless spirits, cursed vehicles, or roads that defy logic, the lesson is clear: respect the roads, trust your instincts, and never underestimate the power of the supernatural. Some paths are better left unexplored, and some mysteries are better left unsolved.